So there's definitely been an uptick lately in the number of reports and articles coming out of Washington state. And honestly, I'm completely fine with that because it's the state that I'm most familiar with. But I'm sure we'll be hearing from more border states soon. The reports seem to come in cycles. So for those watching from the west coast of Canada, especially if you used to frequent Whatcom County as much as I did, you're probably going to like today's video. Today I'm going to talk about a report coming out of Blaine, Washington. Blaine was one of those places I used to visit often, whether it's to pick up packages or fill up on gas, or head a little bit farther to Bellingham. It was just part of a routine that we had. I also have a report out of Vancouver showing how travel patterns are changing in my hometown. And on top of that, a report out of Seattle where businesses were banking on the summer tourist season and also the Toronto Blue Jays. Neither of those plans worked out, and I think we all know why. Today's backdrop comes in from Raging Goblin, who sent in this photo of Cape Breton Highlands National Park in Nova Scotia. This is actually the first photo I used that came directly from our new Discord server. If you haven't checked that out yet, the link is in the description below. Thanks for the photo, Raging Goblin, and it was great chatting with you on the server. Now before I get started, one of our viewers from Europe sent in these screenshots from Air France. They're trying to promote flights to Miami. We already know how Canadians would react to this, but I wanted to show this to reassure Canadians that it's not just us. The rest of the world is also turning its back on the United States. You can clearly see it in the comments here. Many people are telling Air France, no way. Some say, nah, I'm good. Others are calling it the last place on their travel bucket list. One comment even says, no thank you. Canada? Yes, anytime. And another one says, strange timing, Air France. The comments keep going, and it's pretty clear that the target audience is not buying into it. Just like how we react to promotions encouraging travel to the United States. So again, I'm sharing this as reassurance to Canadians who might be surrounded by people within their inner circle who just don't seem to care about what's going on. Because there are millions of people around the world who do care. And to the viewer who sent in these screenshots, I really appreciate the heads up on this. Okay, let's get started on the report out of Blaine, Washington.
It's quiet in Blaine, Washington. This border town just south of Vancouver is used to seeing Canadian shoppers stop for gas or a bite to eat, but last year, things changed.
The past year, there has been a significant drop in visitors coming.
For our businesses, it's been slower. We definitely noticed it.
It's sad.
Vehicle volume from BC dropped by about 35% at lower mainland border crossings in 2025. Locals point to U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs and 51st state rhetoric.
I'm glad the locals understand that 51st state rhetoric is a big issue. It's also the safety concerns at the Peace Arch and across the country. And it's not just the safety, it's the rudeness and attitude from CBP. If we're to be visitors into your country, I don't want to be interrogated and treated like crap. Ironically, the message as the Peace Arch reads, may these gates never be closed. Maybe they should be closed. As someone who used to frequent Blaine, my message to the business owners I once supported is this. For me, it's mainly about the 51st state threat, border safety with CBP, and even ICE. Let's not forget the disrespect coming from the right. And I know it might not be the business owners in Blaine, but they are still part of your country. The tariffs are an issue for me, but they're lower on my priority list. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me on this or not.
Compared to 1 year ago, we have seen a 50% drop in terms of our package volume. So unfortunately, we have to reduce our business hours.
Many are trying to adjust to the drop in business, with other factors like the exchange rate and cheaper Canadian gas keeping people away.
We have a 25% for Canadian business. It's a discount for Canadians because of our dollar.
Whatcom County has seen a bigger drop in visitors than other border communities like Detroit, Buffalo, and Niagara Falls.
In some ways, it starts to feel like a new normal, which is sort of a sad thing to say because I think many of us hoped this would not be a long-term situation.
Well, unfortunately, from my perspective, as one of your former Canadians who used to visit Blaine frequently, this is a long-term change for me. It's a new normal, and it's not going to magically end once the orange guy is out of the office. That said, I am glad to hear that Whatcom County on the West Coast has seen the biggest drop. But I also think it's important to keep this in context. Border crossings in Eastern Canada are likely to include more Canadians who travel to the US every single day for work, as well as more commercial traffic. And all of that adds to the overall crossings.
While there have been efforts to lure Canadians back with discounts and welcome messages, some are concerned how long it could take to turn things around.
We should have maybe diversified a lot sooner. Yes, that would have been smart.
We're not even a year into the current administration, And it just doesn't seem to be getting any better. So at this point, I think people are looking ahead 3 years.
That, in my view, is the wisest approach for the city of Blaine and its businesses. Save your money on marketing campaigns aimed at us and start seriously factoring in that nothing's going to change, at least for the next 3 years. And even after 3 years, you should still have a contingency plan. Because you're not going to get back the same volume of Canadian visitors you had before. You might get some after 3 years, but not all of us. And I want to be clear about something. I don't want all US businesses to fail. I used to rely on a packaging receiving company called Haggins & Blaine, and I truly don't want to see them close down. They were always good to deal with in the past. But adjustments have to be made, and I really hope they understand why I chose to close my account.
There is a glimmer of hope for 2026, with some expecting a boost in border travel for the FIFA World Cup and 4th of July celebrations.
Okay, I gotta interrupt again. Do they really think that Canadians who are actively boycotting the United States actually care about the 4th of July celebrations, or the 250th birthday of the US, or whatever it is? That's like being in an abusive relationship, and then having the abuser expect you to show up to their birthday party. I don't know, I just find it strange that the media keeps bringing this up. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me on this.
Positivity, success, a lot more friendly faces coming in. We see a ton of Canadian license plates now, which is so nice to see.
For a town just a stone's throw from BC, it's not just about the downturn of Canadian business affecting the community, but the loss of the relationship between neighbors.
I'm not so sure about what that florist is saying, that she sees a ton of BC plates coming across the border. Everyone else in this report is saying things are down, but I guess she's trying to stay positive. Now moving on to the next report, which talks about people in my hometown continuing to travel, just choosing a different destination.
Canadians are still hesitant to travel south of the border, according to new numbers released by Stats Canada. The number of Canadians traveling from Vancouver to the U.S. fell for 10 straight months in 2025.
People are just unsure about going there because they're hearing lots of rumors about things that might be happening there, whether they're true or not. People aren't sure. And
what do you mean rumors and not sure if it's true or not? Do you not watch the news? Or see the videos of ICE detaining people? Or people being held at border crossings? Or even deported? Don't be afraid to call it what it is, Mr. Gaba.
whenever people are scared or there's any sort of instability, people just tend to avoid those regions.
About 230,000 people flew from YVR to the U.S. in November. That's a nearly 11% drop compared to the same time in 2024. But it doesn't mean travelers aren't finding alternatives to traditional travel spots like Miami, Vegas, and Hawaii.
A lot of that has shifted to other sun destinations, such as Mexico, the Caribbean in the winter. But for the summer, we're seeing a lot more Europe travel.
And I highly encourage Canadians to continue that trend in 2026, which I know many of you will. With that said, for anyone watching right now who's thinking of letting their passport expire just because you're not going to the United States, please don't do that. Your Canadian passport is one of the strongest passports in the world. And personally, I think it's time that Canadians start exploring the rest of the world.
However, Alaska is a different case.
Alaska cruises don't seem to be impacted much, though. People still are doing those and are ignoring the fact that it's going to the U.S., but we're seeing definitely Caribbean cruises, I guess, because you're flying into the U.S., it just feels different.
I would caution anyone thinking that it's okay to go to Alaska just because it feels far enough from the rest of the United States. I'm pretty sure you still have to deal with immigration when you go on a cruise to Alaska. I've never been myself, so I'm just making an assumption here. But in one of my upcoming videos, I have a report of a US citizen being dragged out of his room on a cruise ship by ICE. So the idea that you're somehow safe just because you're in Alaska or on a cruise doesn't really hold up.
But the uncertainty surrounding the border has started going both ways.
Even some people that live in the U.S. are scared about re-entering the U.S. Like, oh, what if something happens? What if they take away my citizenship or something? Like, people are just scared.
But as for Canadians, traveling itself is still as popular as ever.
People still want to do what they want to do, except they're trying to find ways to do it without the U.S.
He brought up a good point. Even U.S. citizens are now afraid to leave their own country because they're worried what might happen coming back into their own country. And I honestly don't blame them. It has to be a strange feeling after being afraid to re-enter the country where you were born. Now moving on to the next article. This one focuses on Seattle, another city that I'm very familiar with, and the struggles that it faced in 2025. The article is titled, Canadian tourists vanish from Seattle, and US tourism loses billions. I'll read out a few key points from this article, but if you want to read it in full, the link is in the description below. It starts off by talking to a tour guide who noticed this year he didn't see a single Toronto Blue Jays hat. And I think it's pretty fair to say that that's pretty rare when the Blue Jays are in town. Now, I'm sure there were still Blue Jays fans from Canada going to the game. I've done previous reports showing some Canadians were still flying down to watch their team. But this speaks about something a little bit bigger. The overall volume of Canadians making the trip has significantly been reduced. The tour guide then says the cancellations started coming in, and Canadians directly blamed the Orange Guys policy. Another operator says business fell by half. Yet somehow both tour guides expected a normal summer. This part kind of surprises me because especially considering that the Orange Guy has been pushing his rhetoric throughout the entire first half of the year. I don't know how you expect things to just go back to normal after the amount of damage that was done between February and April of last year. The article then goes on to say that some of the hardest hit cities that depend on foreign tourists are Seattle, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and Orlando. I would also add all border towns in general, as well as San Francisco and New York. Now, one of the main reasons why I wanted to show this article is to highlight the Blue Jays fans who didn't show up. Like I said earlier, some Canadians still went, but the volume of them clearly didn't. We know for a fact that many sporting events rely on Canadians flying down to watch their team. I used to fly to Los Angeles as well as Las Vegas to watch my Canucks play, which one of our community members, YUL Spotter, was quick to remind me that my team still sucks. Thanks for that, YUL Spotter. But here's my point. When I travel for those games, I pay for my hotel, I pay for food and drinks. I spent money in places in Los Angeles and Las Vegas. That's not happening anymore, because the Orange Guy made it clear he doesn't need anything from Canada. So when a city like Seattle depends on sporting events for tourism revenue, and Canadians don't show up, it's kind of a big deal. The next thing in the article I wanted to point out is that it says 91% of Canadians want Canada to rely less on the United States. I'll be honest, I think that number is actually a little bit too high. And my reason is because we still have our own right wing here in Canada, who want closer ties with the US, or in some cases value the United States more than Canada itself. I'm just being real here. But regardless, road and air travel continue to fall, and that's nothing new to us. Now, Seattle is banking on a successful World Cup this year, as they're one of the host cities. Visit Seattle estimates that 750,000 fans will visit, generating $929 million and supporting 20,000 jobs. Are we sure about that? You might get domestic tourists coming in, but a large portion of the world is fully aware of what's going on in the United States right now. I'm sure there are global citizens who are already holding tickets and are actively debating whether or not they'll actually go. My guess is that we're going to see more reports of canceled World Cup tickets. I mean, we're only halfway through January and you're already hearing about it. So I'll definitely keep everyone updated on how the World Cup situation in the United States unfolds. Last thing I wanted to point out, Tourism Economics is warning that the World Cup boost will not be enough to undo the damage in 2025. And we still have all of 2026, where even more damage can be done leading up to the World Cup. They also bring up America's 250th anniversary, which, quite honestly, I could care less about, and the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. I think how the World Cup performs will largely determine how the 2028 Olympics ends up doing. Now, there is something interesting about this article. In my opinion, it states far more facts than most articles I've read. It even mentions the 51st state rhetoric and openly acknowledges that there were fewer Blue Jays fans. That's something I honestly haven't seen from most Washington state media. But if you look at the bottom of the article, it states that the article is created with AI assistance and human editing. I understand how this whole AI game works. I've even had AI-driven channels, including one run by a creator from Pakistan, try to rip off my content. My guess is that Leo, who is the author of this article, asked AI to pull in statistics on the current situation in Seattle's tourism industry, had it generate a draft, and then proofread it before publishing. Despite that, this article actually presents more factual data than most US-based media authors and reporters do. It didn't try to blame it on the weather or the exchange rate or any other bullshit. Now, this is not me justifying the use of AI. I don't use AI at all on my channel. What you're hearing me read is exactly what I type, even if my grammar doesn't make any sense. There are still hundreds, if not thousands, of AI-driven channels out there using unconfirmed data, which ends up pushing people in directions that aren't always true. But in the case of this article, I can at least say it was more factual than most of what I've seen from the Washington state media. So just be mindful of what you're reading and what you're watching out there on the internet. If you found any value at all in anything I said today, It would be greatly appreciated if you help support my channel by hitting the like and subscribe button below. Have a great rest of your day, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.